Hi YouTube friends, I'm Heidi Villegas with Healing Harvest Homestead, and I was getting ready to take care of my indoor plants today, and I thought I would go ahead and just do a quick little chat about how to keep rosemary alive inside your house. Now, rosemary is difficult to grow inside a home, and I've got some tips to share with you that will help. You might be wondering, why would you even want to grow rosemary inside your home? Well, number one is rosemary is an amazing herb, and it has a lot of medicinal qualities, and we use it quite a lot for therapeutic purposes, for helping with colds, flus, things like this. It's warming, it's drying, it's got chemicals in it and compounds that really are helpful for dealing with a lot of issues, and including your skin. It's wonderful as a hair rinse. It's great for so many different things. We won't go into that today. We're going to focus on the plant today. I could talk forever about rosemary, the plant and the essential oil. And anyway, I love rosemary. It's a plant that I can't do without. And since we live here in North Idaho, it is difficult to keep alive all year long because our winters are too cold for it. So rosemary is a Mediterranean plant that likes heat. It does really well in the summer times out here. And it also likes to get moisture from the air. So I'm going to show you my rosemary plant that I brought in for the winter. And you can take a look at it. And I'm going to give you some tips about keeping it alive inside, okay? All right, so I have plants all over my house and in every single room, everywhere. First off, they clean the air, and I just love having them around. Their greenness is vibrant and alive in it, and it actually helps me deal with seasonal affective disorder. And, you know, when my mood goes down in the wintertime from the dark days, I love looking at my living plants, and rosemary is one of them. So this rosemary is going into its second year, believe it or not. It's really quite large. This pot is a big pot. It's probably about 30 inches tall, and I usually have this plant outdoors until it gets cold. And when it starts freezing, I have to bring it in. This window that we're looking at here gets about it's a southwest exposure, and it gets the most light in our house. Unfortunately, we're not blessed in this home to have a lot of light, but we do have a good deal coming through these windows. So I actually have plants lined up everywhere along here, and I could go the other way too, all the way along here and into our bedroom as well, which is down the hall. That's a lemon tree over there. But anyway, let's focus on this rosemary. So I want to show you something. Rosemary is typically, it looks like these stems down here, if it's healthy, okay? You can see how the leaves are growing close together up the stem, and it's kind of a stiff stem. It's kind of a woody type stem, which is good. And this is a healthy rosemary plant. However, I want you to take a look at these little stems coming up. See those? So these new stems are tender, and the leaves are also very tender, and you can see that they're not growing very close together. Let me find another example. Here's a great example right here. See how they're just spread far apart on that stem? That's not a good sign. That's a sign that it is reaching for light and it's not getting enough light. Unfortunately, in our house, this is all I can give it. But I know that if I keep it healthy and alive and green, when I put it outside next summer, it's going to do great. So what I do to keep this alive in the wintertime is I prune it quite often. So what I'll do is I'll just prune these new shoots off. And guess what? You can make tea out of those. You can tincture them. You can obviously cook with them, and they're just delicious. And because they're tender, they're actually easier to eat and to cook with. So I love cooking with rosemary. You might be wondering what this is. This was an old St. John's wort plant that it started growing in my pot, and I decided to leave it because I love St. John's wort. So it's a little bit likely I might have new little St. John's wort sprouts growing up in here, but if I do, we'll deal with it. next year, but I love St. John's wort. This plant here is sage, and I've got it over here with my rosemary. But anyway, that's a little bit about the leaves and what to look for with new growth. Now, I want to just mention that when I brought this plant in last winter, it didn't do very well because it got a bad case of spider mites. Now, I hate those things. You can know that they're on your plants if you see little tiny webs, and they're kind of hard to spot. The spider mites are super small, and you need to almost get a magnifying glass. But with rosemary, and they do love rosemary, and especially they love these tender shoots, and that's another reason to prune those off and use them. You can see how they're reaching over here. But the thing you want to do every single day, and maybe twice a day with your rosemary is squirt it with water. All right, so rosemary is known as an upside down plant, and what this means is that it gets most of its moisture from the air, okay? Now, being in a cool home that's heated with a wood stove in wintertime means we have very dry air, and therefore I make sure that I'm evaporating water on the wood stove, and I spritz my plant twice a day or once a day with water really, really well and get it soaking wet. And honestly, I think that's probably the number one best thing that I do in the wintertime to keep my rosemary plant alive and vibrant over the winter, so that when I take it out next summer, it's going to have a head start and grow. And I'm expecting next summer, based on the growth I saw this summer, I bet it's going to be at least a good foot tall by the time I bring it in next summer. Actually, it's almost a foot tall now, maybe 2 feet. We'll see. It's fun growing your herbs, you guys. I hope you try this. If you live in a warm place, you can actually grow rosemary outside all year long. I always had a rosemary plant in my garden in Las Vegas, and it would just grow all year. But up here in Idaho, in the northern states, or if you just want to bring a rosemary inside and enjoy it, you can. You just need to know what to do with it. Oh, another quick tip. Don't let it soak in its water, okay? So when you're watering your rosemary plant, it's really a good idea to let it dry out between waterings and then thoroughly soak it and then let it dry out again, okay? It doesn't like sitting in a lot of wetness. And I just want to mention that rosemary typically is native to the Mediterranean, and it grows near the ocean. In fact, its Latin name is Rosmarinus officinalis, and that's, rose and marine. So it likes to be near the ocean, and it ends up getting most of its moisture from the ocean mists and the humidity in the air. So we're in a very different environment here, and when you are growing indoor plants, it's very important to create an environment for the plant that matches as closely as possible its native environment. I grow a lot of other plants in here that shouldn't be growing in North Idaho. Lemons and ginger and aloe vera, all kinds of things. I'll do a video on each of those too if you guys want me to. All right. I'm Heidi Villegas with Healing Harvest Homestead. I've got links to some free things down in the description, and I hope you'll join the community. I'll talk with you later. Bye-bye.